Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I see that Roger has come online. I just want to see if he's ready to get going.
I am almost there, Monica.
Okay, just let me know when you do. Hang on, everyone, as you're joining. We are getting everything ready to go.
As we're getting ready, looks like we have an intimate group, so therefore we can do things slightly differently. As we talk in details later on, whenever you have a question, no need to wait until the end. Go ahead and put it in the chat box and start with the capital letter Q dash. Then it stands out in the public chat, that your question will stand out. And I most likely should be able to catch them unless 100 more attendees dropped in the next 3 minutes. I'm not sure.
One thing I'm finding about Zoom meetings, people like to wait till the last minute to log in.
That's right. Well, I don't know if Monica shared with you that I am giving you a secret hack at exactly 1:58. And once I've given it, I'm not going to repeat it. So you don't show up early enough, you don't get the secret. The first, either green, or you can just verbally just say 15-minute. So at the 15 mark, at the 30-minute mark, and then 45-minute. And once we get to the 45, we'll get a little bit more angsty about the specifics. Okay.
Okay. I'll just give you a verbal cue on it.
Yeah, that will be fine. Yes, Sarah, you're correct. You can put a few more books. Those
Yeah, I think
books,
I need another book. Don't I need another book? I'm gonna
no,
go
you
get
look
another
fine.
book.
You look fine.
I'm fine. Okay, thank you.
Right. The telephone books are. This is the time when you have not thrown them all out in recycles. Those are the good time to have those extra boxes from your garage to prop up your camera or your monitor and prop up your laptop. That works too. So, Monica, I'm ready to go when you are.
All right, let me go ahead and give a short intro for Roger. He began his Toastmasters journey in 2017. In February 2018, Pathways was launched in his district. By November 2018, Roger became the first Pathways DTM in District 50, completing the presentation mastery and strategic relationships. He is currently working on the engaging humor and dynamic leaderships path. Roger is an active trainer both on and offline, in and outside of Toastmasters. He enjoys learning from content experts from around the world. He shares many of his interviews with us on YouTube. Join me in welcoming Roger as he presents the online meeting information.
Thank you very much, Monica. All of you are welcome to turn on your video so that I can see your faces, and so I don't feel like I am just talking to the wall in one way or the other. As we get started, first question I like to throw out there, and you can unmute yourself and answer them, or you can put them in the chat box if your audio does not work very well. What is one thing that you hope you can pick up, or one question or one struggle that you've had in terms of either using Zoom specifically or just online meeting in general? Let's just throw that open. If anyone wants to go ahead and unmute.
So, hi, can you hear me? This
Yes,
is Peggy
Peggy
Hill, and this may be a little bit more advanced than what you were planning on getting into, but if you are champions, the Toastmasters International, when there was a group of people who were applying for that certification, and they had their screen split so that half the screen showed themselves and the other half showed their PowerPoint. And I'm wondering if that's anything you might be able to cover, if that's too far advanced for this session?
I was not there for that session, but I'm guessing, I'll answer that very quickly. I'm guessing is that they have turned on the view, side-by-side view on Zoom, so that once somebody is, and I will demonstrate it a little bit later, once somebody started a PowerPoint or slide presentation, you on your desktop can make those changes so that you can resize the size of the slides versus the participant. And that allows you, some people would prefer to see the big slide and little people boxes. Some people prefer to push the slides into the minimum size and allow more individual showing. So I will demonstrate that very quickly later on. All right. Anyone else before we get started? Best practices of using spotlight video. In case I don't touch on it, I will quickly let you know that when the host and co-host in Zoom can spotlight a video. In fact, the latest update on Zoom allows you to spotlight multiple video square. That is a function that the host or co-host can do. Once it's spotlighted, those squares, video squares, will stay on everyone's desktop. You can, the individuals can still choose between gallery view or speaker view, but the non-host cannot move those spotlighted video again. Contrast that to highlighted video or pin videos. You can pin multiple videos. In fact, you can move the video square. So right now, whoever it is, you say, hey, you know what? Roger's appearing on top of my screen on this gallery thing. I don't like to see his face. I want to drag him down to the bottom. Yeah, use your mouse. You see a little hand, left click, drag, and you can drag him to wherever you want. Wait for a second and drop, and that square will be moved, and it only affects your computer. All right, we're just getting warmed up. If you have more questions, put it in the chat box and I'll come right back to it. And here I am going to share my PowerPoint slides very quickly. And Monica can give me a thumbs up that you see what we have. Excellent. I'm going to speed through this very quickly, and I have no problem sharing these slides with Monica later on. Monica can pass it on, and so you don't have to take as much notes as you have to. And then we can go back and forth a little bit more in terms of some detail. So if you catch anything that I have not mentioned, chat box again, and we'll go from there. So here are some links. You will get the slides later on. So the first link is the official Zoom tutorial from zoom.us. So they will have some updated tutorial. You can go there. The second and the third lines are the links are my sites, TI Pathways. I put videos and tutorial on not just in Zoom meeting, but contests. There are various downloads and resources you can get to. And then my channel at YouTube will be just youtube.com at Roger Fung. Those at YouTube are combination of tutorials and interviews that I've done in terms of other Toastmasters around the world, and they share their expertise in various areas of the meeting. So first hack, or first area that I want to highlight, it's lights, camera, and action. Audio quality is the most important, most important. Even if you look fuzzy, even if you don't have a perfect image, if your audios are clear, people will accept it. Try that on YouTube. Pick some wonderfully looking visual, but somehow the audio doesn't come through very clearly. I guarantee that you turn it off within 30 seconds. Lights and more lights. Most of us are working off of a laptop webcam or an external webcam, and these are not like heavy duty TV production camera. That means that if we have the more lights that we have, more light sources in the room, the less the camera has to work. So if we force the camera to have to work harder, the quality will go down, and you will think, oh, I need to go buy this super duper $3,000 webcam. Nope. You may just need a $4.99 Home Depot spotlight and clip it somewhere so that your room gets a little bit brighter just when you're going on to a meeting. And most of your camera, your iPhone, your cell phone camera actually will turn out excellent if there are enough lights onto your face. And if you have the ability to turn off the autofocus of your webcam, that will be wonderful. Now, if you use Windows, there is a free software you can pick up, and I've listed it under video 5B on my site, tipathways.com, and there's a tutorial in terms of how to do it. That little piece of software can do more than just autofocus or turning on and off. It can give you a little bit more color on your face, or brighter or not. You have a lot more things that you could do, but the main thing is when you leave the autofocus on, what happened is that I will demonstrate very quickly. If I leave my autofocus on, and then all of a sudden I'm giving speeches, and I'm getting antsy, and I'm getting moving, and guess what? As soon as I start moving, you can see that I'm fading in and out because the computer is trying to refocus me by how far I am from the camera. But once, what I do is I log in, I turn on the video, I look at the camera and allow the camera to focus on me, then boom, I turn off the autofocus. And from that point on, even if I move a little bit, I don't need the autofocus to adjust much at all. So therefore, you reduce the opportunity for the computer to try to refocus, thus making you more fuzzy back and forth. And who doesn't love shortcuts, right? There are shortcuts in your Zoom app. Did you know that after you mute yourself, you can hold on to your space bar and temporarily unmute yourself? And as soon as you let go of the space bar, you'll be muted again. So you don't have to use your mouse and trying to find where exactly you need to click. There's a big, long space bar, and somebody asks you for a quick question, you just want to answer. All right, hold down the space bar and then talk and let go of the space bar, and you mute it again. That's just one shortcut. So on your Zoom app, right now, if you're in Zoom, on your desktop, you should see two little icons on your taskbar that's related to Zoom. One is the actual visual that you're looking at. The other one is the application itself. You can go and click onto the gear icon, and one of those things toward the end is called keyboard shortcuts. Those are the preset shortcuts, and if you don't like it, you can change it. So you can say, hey, alternate F1 will give me whatever that you want. And you don't have to learn how to use all of the shortcuts. What we'll find out is that there are 2 or 3 shortcuts that you really like to use. Remember those clicks, or create your own shortcut click on keyboard, and you can get to those things much quicker, and those functions much quicker, without having to try to find all the clicks and exactly where it is during a meeting. You can control the audio, you can do the keyboard shortcuts. Should we wait? Now, all meetings as of this week will require a passcode or a waiting room to be enabled. If you didn't have those before, Zoom will automatically add it to your account. And by default, the waiting room feature will be enabled. But here's the issue. While the waiting room feature is very appropriate for a corporate environment and you want to limit the attendance, it creates a single point of failure for most of our meetings. Because what happened is that if Monica is the main host of this meeting, and somehow her internet cannot allow her to log in, and the waiting room feature is on, guess what happened to all of us? We dial in, we're stuck in the wait room. We don't see anybody else. We see a screen that says, please wait. You're waiting for the main host, and we just stay there. There's no audio, there's no visual, we have no idea what's going on. Is it my problem? I'm not connecting, or is it the organizer's problem? So you sit there, and what would most likely happen? Somebody start doing WhatsApp. Hey, where's Monica? Right? Somebody's emailing and texting, and you may create even more confusion. So my suggestion is that you turn off the waiting room feature. You have to go into zoom.us, your back office, what I call it, turn off that feature. Do use the password to password protect your meeting. Also, turn on join before host arrives. Why do you want to do that? Because you want to get the host key from your account, the main account, and share it with at least one other main co-host. So if Monica is the one running this meeting, and suppose that she wanted John Williams to be the co-host, the key co-host, she can share the host key with John, so that when John logs in and he wait, and he can see everybody, but does not see Monica at all you have to do in the participant button, he will see a note that says claim host. Click on claim host, put in the host key. Now he becomes the main host, and he can do most of the other function if the scheduled main host never make it to the meeting.
Roger, I have a question about turning off the waiting room feature. If I've already got it turned on and we send out the link that way, if I turn it off, do I have to create a new meeting link?
No, you do not need to create the new meeting link. It just turns off that feature the next time when somebody goes to that meeting. But if you send it out without the password, now you need to send out a new link, because it will have a different link. The link is the same, but then people will log in and say, hey, what's the password? But you haven't shared with them with the password. So when you add a password into Zoom, Zoom allows you two ways to log into a meeting. There is a link, there is a long link that they embed the password within that link, so that people can go one click and it goes into the meeting. Or they can key in the room ID, and then a new pop-up that comes in and says, what's your password? Now you have to manually enter that password. Both goes to the same place, but if you have previously sent out a meeting link without the password, yes, you do need to resend it. If you have sent it originally with a password already in there, and then you turn on and off the waiting room, it will not impact that link. Is that clear, John?
Yes, one other question.
Yes.
Most of our folks like to be able to do the one click and get in and not have to worry about a password. We've only had one occasion when somebody got into the meeting who shouldn't have been there. How many people actually experience problems with having no password
Well, first of all, after this week, either you have to have a waiting room or a password. Zoom is already pushing that. That's number one. Number two, even with a password, because you're sharing it with somebody, right? Once you share it with one person, I send an email to Monica and say, hey, Monica, let's have a party between the two of us. And I email to her, guess what? It's on Gmail. Somebody can hack Gmail. It's all over the place. So once you send it out anyway, there is always a chance that it's out there in the universe. However, you do have a way to just quickly kick somebody off a meeting. So I'm not as concerned. I've been using Zoom for maybe 4 years, 3 years plus. This is way before even the pandemic and even before Toastmasters have been going on Zoom, and I use it quite a bit for my own personal business. I have had twice where somebody jumped into a room at the wrong place at the wrong time. And those are not hackers, just people that somehow click on the wrong link. And very quickly, since they weren't there to be a menace, they realized what they did. They just dropped themselves out. Or I can very quickly kick them out. So there is not, personally, I don't see it as a big concern. I understand in some environments like schools for young kids, they're concerned about inappropriate images and things being placed. We are adult clubs. I think we're perfectly fine. It's a 5-second thing, and then we just move on.
Roger, there is a few questions, like Kara was asking, can a co-host admit people from the waiting room? how many co-hosts can you have?
When you have and I'm going to speak on a pay account, the basic pay account, and the number slightly changes a little bit, but the basic pay account, you can have up to 100 members in a meeting. That means you have one main host and you can actually have 99 co-hosts. So for practical purposes, you're fine. And I would not give co-hosts to everybody. Only give it to people who needs it and know how to use it. Number two, hosts and co-hosts can admit people one at a time or collectively. Therefore, if you have a meeting and there's already, you're waiting and waiting, there are 15 people waiting in the waiting room, you do not necessarily need to let them in one at a time. You can do them all at the same time. And it's the last point here on the slides is that if waiting room is needed, like during a contest, let's suppose in our physical in-person contest, what do we do when a speaker is up on stage? We lock that door, right? We don't let anybody come in and out to try to interrupt accidentally or not. So you can do exactly the same thing. You can turn on and off the waiting room feature after somebody enter into the meeting. The host and co-host can do that. So if this would have been a contest, and let's say Monica is the senior super duper sergeant at arms for the day, and I'm picking on Monica. I know she won't get mad at me in that sense. And here's contestants number one, Roger Fung is speaking and giving the international speech right now. So all she has to do is click, turn on the waiting room. If people come in and out at this point, they will be waiting in the waiting room. And at that 1 minute silent period, Monica can release and allow each and every one of them to enter into the room. All right. Any other related question before we continue on?
There was a question about where to get the host code. And also Sarah's asking, can we see the controls? And I'm not sure I 100% understand that. And then there was one question also about how does a co-host vote in a poll?
Aha, that will lead in right into the next question, but I'll hold on to that. So let's answer the first question, which was
the host code. Where do you get the host code?
When you log into zoom.us, not in the desktop app, but use a browser, log into zoom.us, click on your profile. Host code is listed in your profile. Your profile will say, here's your name. Here, is it a free account or is it a licensed account? And you keep looking down and it will say host code, and you can change those host code. So if you feel like, just like password, if you feel like, hey, look, every 3 months, you feel like, hey, things are going well in our club meeting and I need to update something anyway. Okay, I'm gonna go and change the host code, and I'm gonna change the passcode and then send out a new reminder. You can do that. And then you can rechange it for some reason. Let's say like John, he already sent out a link and he changed the password and was like, wait, everybody still had the old link. All right, I'm just gonna go back and change the password back to the old passcode. No problem. The old link still works now because he put it right back to the right place. So that's one way. So second question. Oh, seeing the control. If I understand the question, if you are looking for the control, you can always click on the lower right left-hand corner on the triangle next to video or audio, and then it pops up a lot of those control, and now you can just adjust accordingly. And that little pop-up, and you can go ahead and change whether it is changing your changing your virtual background or the audio. You have multiple cameras that you want to change.
Right. The reason that, if I may clarify, this is my question. This is Sarah. The reason that I was asking that question is because I generally join Zoom meetings as a participant. And as a participant, I know that several times when I've been in these meetings, that the hosts are having difficulties controlling the things through their controls. And I have never seen their controls. I've always been just a participant. So obviously, the controls that the host sees on their whatever toolbar down at the bottom of the screen are different from the ones that the participant sees. And I was just wondering if I could see those.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
okay.
Please,
Right now,
Monica.
what I'm seeing in your PowerPoint is a PowerPoint. This is not a Zoom screen.
That's right. I did not open up my desktop for you,
Okay.
so therefore you don't see everything on my desktop. And Monica, please keep that on your note. Toward the end, we will demonstrate what do hosts see. And the nice thing about Zoom is that once you change between a regular attendee to a co-host to a host, those functions will appear and disappear accordingly. So there are things that you can do and cannot do, and it will be shown there. So let me quickly go through some more of these points, and then we can come back to that demonstration. So the next question is to poll or not to poll. Now, main host can add and edit a polls before and during a meeting. So if you know this is an election that you want to do, you know ahead of time some of the detail, you can go in and create those polls. I believe you have a limit of 25 polls. So use them wisely. If you have a district election, for example, and you want to use this feature, well, you may have a universal poll. So for example, you may have one poll that says, do we motion to accept or reject XYZ, right? To open or close. Well, that can be used multiple times. So you don't need to list multiple poll. Use that one. People have poll, and later on you can clear that poll and relaunch that same poll, so that you're conserving that 25 number limit. So think through and prepare ahead of time. Oh, there's certain votes that we need to take that can be universal. But of course, there are more specific ones that you may need to do that. But the main host, meaning not just the person who claimed the host, but the person who logged in with the main password of that account. That person is the only one who can add and edit the polls. Here's a caveat. Zoom is constantly changing. Every time I give a tutorial about something, 2 weeks later, they change it. They may expand and subtract things. So keep it up. But as of right now, only the main host can do so. But the co-host or claim host can launch and work the poll. So example number one, Monica has the main login for this account. We started this meeting. She got disconnected and dropped out. I claim the host. I'm the claim host for this meeting. There's I cannot create a new poll now. But if Monica have created a poll before, I can launch the poll, work the poll through the meeting, but I cannot make any adjustments to it or create a new one because nobody else here is the main host. What maybe it was Wanda. Wanda says, hey, I don't see Monica. I'm gonna go in because I'm also have the main login information. She goes in, log in, rejoin the meeting as that main person data. Okay, now she can do what manipulate the poll function. So this is a potential and another potential point of failure. Now, in our regular weekly meeting, counting votes correctly is not the main reason for having a vote counter. Sometimes we got these features, and I'm sure that I've seen clubs that have created websites, Google Docs, and where they can quickly do these votes. The nice thing is you can squeeze your time. But the question I'm asking is having the correct vote the main reason to have a vote counter? For some, it's not. For some club, having a vote counter is an additional way to get more people to start speaking. They have a task and they speak. And also in our in-person meeting, when we vote on the best speaker for the day, the best Toastmaster of the day, how many of you, your club reviewed that, oh, Sarah has got 15 votes and Roger's got 0 votes. So I guess Sarah won, right? How many of you reviewed that? I would venture to guess none of you do. But sometimes when we have technologies like Zoom, it's too quick, it's too easy for us to say, let's vote, 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 vote. Boom, one click, review the vote. And now you've got those details, which may cause more problem than anything. But this is appropriate for election, having votes. If you're prepared, you can do so. And you just have to be mindful of what steps you want to take. Next.
Now, there's a couple of questions about
Yes.
polls, Roger.
Go
Is
ahead.
the poll data stored or temporary? And if you reset the poll, will participants be recorded in reports for every relaunch?
The poll results stays semi-permanently, meaning it will stay there forever until the main host log in, go back in, and delete that. So we done a poll today, just, hey, who has the best table topic speaker? There were 5 choices. Person one, number one won, and nobody logs in. That poll will be available next week, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and the results in the back office will stay there. And just stay there until somebody goes in, delete, and cleans it up. Number 2, when you set up the vote, the poll feature, you can choose to have anonymous poll. That means it will not track who voted for whom. It will only track the results and says this person received 5 votes, this other person got 15 votes. That's it, but it does not record who have sent what. Again, once you relaunch or somebody goes in and delete, everything prior will disappear. Therefore, if you're doing these polls or using it for official record-keeping purposes, like an election, do a screen share, do a screenshot, right? Record a screenshot. Sometimes what we do is you pull a vote counter, for example, in a contest into a breakout room. You have that voting open up, do a quick screenshot, you record that for that purpose. Now, on the other hand, there are certainly districts and division that says, hey, in our live meeting or live contest, once everything's certified, we don't keep that record in the past anyway. So you don't need to keep it. But that's your stylistic choice in terms of whether certain thing needs to have a physical record, like having a screenshot of the actual results. Monica?
One more question. Does polling work on Chromebooks and iPads or just PCs?
I believe they work on everything, even on your phone. The struggle is that when you have a smaller device, you have to find them. You have to swipe left, right, okay, which button is which. But once you know it, it's there. I don't think there's any major functions that a desktop Zoom app allows that the iPad, cell phone app, or a Chromebook app does not allow, as far as I know. All right, continuing. Every meeting is an event. Have a pre-meeting MC. I'm calling it an MC only because I don't want it to confuse with Toastmaster today or host or co-host on a Zoom. Just think about in-person meeting. Now, when you walk into a typical meeting in the past, you tend to be able to see somebody that you know, oh, hey, Monica, hey, Wanda, hey, Sarah, and you start catching up. That's more natural. When we're online, most of us are not as talkative as Roger. So you walk into a room and there are 12 other people already on screen. Many times you just end up staring at each other because you're afraid to carry a conversation. Oh, yeah, I haven't talked to Monica for a long time, but that's more of a private one-on-one conversation and you don't really want the other 10 people to listen to. So you're losing a lot of that social aspect, the bantering back and forth kind of a thing. Well, why not organize those times, right? You can have a pre-meeting MC. Maybe in your maybe let's say if your club has somebody who is more of the go-getter, who's really like the party planner, really able to get people into the group, they don't even have to be an officer, right? You can give them a task and maybe even create a 2 or 3 people subcommittee, right? Call it whatever you want, right? The party group, right? Things like that. So when people come in, hey, I noticed that John is not there or Sarah is not there. So okay, I'll do this. Hey, let's introduce everybody and then recognize some new name. Hey, how'd you find us? Da 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 da. Well, the key point is not to give another 5 to 7 minute speech. It's just to get people warmed up. Where are they? Meeting them. So having a pre-meeting MC, having a post-meeting MC, right? How many times, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand because this is rhetorical. How many times have you gone to a meeting when it's all done, everything's great? All right, this is the end of the meeting, and you want to say something, and somebody already clicked end meeting, and you end it very abruptly, right? What I would suggest is that you can have an official end of your meeting, just like the gavel, right? This meeting's officially done. Boom, gavel done. Some people can filter out. They can step up in person and start walking out of the room. Individually, might say, hey, I got another thing to do. I click off. But there are few people who have questions. They want to chit chat a little bit. Again, have some organization, having some kind of post-meeting MCs, so that now your event becomes a little bit more well-rounded and organized and a little bit more directional. All right. Sharing music. Right now, I am sharing my slides. And once I share, many of you, most of all of you cannot share anything else. But you can also share computer sound. That means that maybe I can have my favorite music playing, maybe a little bit elevator music. If that's what I want, go find it in YouTube, play it on my desktop, and I share just the music. And it will not impact anybody else in terms of the visual, but the whole room now could hear that music in the background. If you have that 1 minute silence between contestants, now that's probably not a good time to put on music. But if you have an extended delay, like in district meetings, okay, we're going to take a 15-minute break. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Instead of dead silent, play a little music. Just don't turn it up too high. Could be a little bit low, so that you're still keeping the momentum going a bit. And if you step out and other people happen to want to have a conversation, well, the volume is low enough on the music that they can still have that conversation without doing that. So those are just examples of keeping the meeting going. Who's recording what? Monica,
Roger,
did you
one question.
Yeah.
Ron had, how do we ensure to maximize the viewing screen in the share option?
I will do the demonstration later with the control. All right,
Okay.
so please mark that with there. So who's recording what? This is another area that Zoom have already changed multiple times in the last few months. I think it's also due to because of their popularity, and more people are coming on using it. All the accounts can record meetings on the host and co-host computer, whether you have a pay account or a free account. Host and co-host can also give non-host permission to record on their computer. Let's say your club does not regularly record your meeting, but a speaker, the featured speaker, says, I would like to have a recording of my own speech. Well, a host and co-host can give that person permission, and they press and stop their own recording, and it will go to their computer and will not affect anyone else. If you give permission to every member, then potentially every attendees can record a version of the meeting on their computer. When you record on the computer, what you see is what you get. That means that if I'm recording on my computer and I'm changing between the gallery view to the speaker view and then back and forth during the meeting, my version will have exactly that, zigzagging back and forth, because what I see is what I get. When I record on the cloud, the pay account, you have the option of recording on the cloud, and it goes to zoom.us. They record it for you, they keep it there, and they will allow multiple versions. And you have that checkbox within the back office. One version is gallery only. Another version is speaker view only. Another version is audio only with no visual, so on and so forth. You can choose as many as they have available, but they don't mix with each other. So if you have this nifty little thing that you like to have gallery view at the beginning of the meeting, and then speaker view just when the Toastmasters speak, and then hand it over to the prepared speaker, and at table topics, you want to go back to a gallery view and seeing everybody, and you want all of that without doing any editing, record on your desktop. Record on your desktop, and then as you move back and forth, it will record as you see it. But if you want to be nifty and doing different things, then you take the cloud version, and now you have to edit the video with some other software down the road. Give you a quick example. Some of you might have gone to YouTube and see some of the interviews that I have done with various Toastmasters and individuals. I can record an interview with somebody for an hour, and it will generally take me 5, maybe even 10 hours to do the editing in terms for 1 hour worth of video, because there are some part that I cannot use. I will have to cut it off. There's some part that I'm trying to highlight certain things and I put in notes within it. Then I have to do that post-production, and post-production usually is a lot longer than the interview itself. So host and co-host can record independent of each other on their own computer. So that means that I'm a co-host, I'm gonna start a recording on my computer, and then Monica also can start a cloud recording on top. But here's the caveat and pre-warning. Once a cloud recording is activated, has started, host and co-host can only control the cloud recording. So go back to my example. I started a local version on my desktop. Monica started a cloud version where she's the host, I'm the co-host. Once she started, if I press stop on my computer, I'm stopping the cloud version because I'm a co-host. But what happened to that local version that I started? Well, I have to wait now for Monica to turn that off. So Monica can turn off the cloud control on that side. And on my computer, it is not turned off. It's still recording because that is my local version. So it's a little bit of back and forth, and you have to test it out. So remember the process and the step, who goes first and what is second, kind of a thing, to make sure you don't mix everything. So my action item, just record and record and record everything. You can always delete them, right? And plan ahead. And here's a tip that I didn't write down. Why not get 2 free accounts instead of 1 free account in Zoom? Then you can play along and test these things out. Turn on your desktop on account A, use your phone on account B. And now you see, oh, account B as a non-co-host, what he or she is going to see versus, hey, this is the host. When host does this, this is what I see on the host computer. As long as you have multiple email, you can get multiple accounts for free. You don't need to have pay account. And now you can test out some things and know that what does it look like for a host? What does it look like for a regular participant if you need to do that? So you don't need to coordinate with 3 or 4 people to try to do that. All right, couple more things, and then we'll jump into more questions later on. This is my pet peeve, and I will highlight it over and over and over again. When you watch a relay race, most of the time, if not all of the time, winning and losing a relay race is when you have to hand off the baton. When you messed up that process, you're going to lose the race, no matter how fast your teammate can run. We have baton transferring in our meetings. Make sure that when you are receiving and passing on the baton, you make it clear. So for example, I'm looking at the agenda and I am speaker number 2. Well, speaker number 1 is speaking. I know within 5 to 7 minutes, I got to get ready, right? So just like a relay race, you remember, you may have seen those pictures where people have their head looking back and they're waiting for that last person to run up to them. Be ready to receive the baton. And if you're the one speaking and you end it, you can end it whichever way you choose. You don't have to say it the way I say it, but you've got to give somebody a signal, right? Here's my baton, right? Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. And that is my story. Because sometimes, especially online, when you pause and freeze, the rest of the audience may not know, is it a technical issue? Or is he trying to make a point? Because he might not have finished yet. Maybe that is a point of part of his story that he wanted to pause for an extended 5 seconds just to get us feel uncomfortable before he launched the next point. So if I'm the Toastmaster and you are speaking and you pause, I have a question now. Okay, do I butt in right now? Is she done? But if you have a habit of giving clear passing of the baton, it makes it simple. Back to you. Here it is. I yield control. Those are some ways that you're clearly passing the baton, and the one who receives it, again, other ways to receive it. Thank you very much. What a way to end. Blah, 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 blah. So those are the things. Don't drop the baton. Always be ready. So now we are in the Q&A. Let's answer some questions, and then we can do some demo in terms of the control panels.
There was a question, Roger. Is there a tip to share your screen and be able to stop sharing through a shortcut, just like mute and unmute? And I think Peggy had answered there's like a shortcut key, Alt-S, but I don't know if you know another way.
That is a quick way. However, with share screen, you still need to choose what you're going to share. So whether you do an Alt-S or click the share screen button, the green share screen button, you do need that next window, because the next window is going to give you the choice. Do I want to share my whole desktop? Do I want to share just one specific program on my computer? Or do I want to do the advanced, right? Here's the advanced. Let me, in case you haven't seen it yet, you can do the PowerPoint nowadays with yourself embedded in there, right? So this is a newer version where you can, hey, you say, okay, I'm actually doing the same slides and I'm embedding myself into the visual. And here it is. I can move myself and say, no, I don't like this corner. I want to do this corner. And besides, I'm so important, I got to be in this side, right? So, here it is, this is the way to do slides. Now, not every computer can do it. I mean, as we continue to, as the Zoom continue to evolve, it's going to be more and more taxing to your computer, using your computer resource. And that means, number one, turn off whatever you don't necessarily need from your computer. Number two, it will hit a point where, hey, oh, my computer is a little bit old and I cannot use all of these functions. But you don't need all of the functions. So there's, on the one hand, I don't need to chase after everything. And then the other thing is, Zoom sometimes would actually lower the requirement for certain features. And so I think 3 months ago, I cannot use this function right now on this computer by having a virtual background without green screen. I don't have a green screen behind this computer. I have other computers set up that has a green screen behind me, but I just want to show you, hey, here it is. There's my messy desk over there, things like that. But 3 months ago, this computer cannot do it. Doesn't have enough requirements. But Zoom changed things. So I would say, kind of like the latest technology or the latest fashion, don't chase after it. You're going to be more frustrating. But learn what can be done and use what is appropriate for you, right? For what you are trying to achieve. And sometimes I've seen in the last few months, because every Toastmasters and maybe the rest of the world are on Zoom, I've seen presentation where they throw in every feature and slides in there. And I'm like, at the end of 10 minutes, and I wonder, hey, well, what did they talk about? I can't remember one thing from their speech, but I can remember there's all these splashes left and right. So you don't want these features to become the story, right? You want your story to stand out. Monica?
Thanks, Roger. There's a question about, can you prevent participants from recording? I think that goes back to the recording screen questions.
Yes, if you are, by default, if you are a non-host or non-co-host, you don't have that permission. The permission has to be manually given. So by default, nobody has permission to record other than host and co-host. Now, I'm going to tell you an additional point that you may not like to hear. I can always record something. I just record it from other resources. Meaning, I don't use Zoom to record this meeting. Well, I can have screen sharing applications on my computer and record this meeting, even though you're not allowing me to record. I say that to say, look, this is part of new life reality. We're being recorded left and right. You get out of the street, and those red eye camera are no longer just simply red eye camera. They are recording all sorts of things. So unless you have to decide, how to hide yourself, be prepared that when you don't think you're being recorded, guess what? The camera is on. So in some way, it forces us not to have multiple personalities.
All right, there's a question about, can you share YouTube on the screen? I'm assuming it's like a YouTube video that they're wanting to display.
You can show any website. It could be a video on YouTube. It could be a video on Facebook. You're sharing not YouTube per se. You're sharing the browser.
Can I share a little bit of my newest video now?
Not right now. No, not right now. We're
later.
got some more questions.
As we get a little bit later on, we can do some demonstration.
Thank you.
But here's the thing about sharing anything with audio or visual, especially audio. When you click on the share button and share that browser, there is that lower right left-hand corner that says share your computer sound also. If you don't check that box, the video is playing, but there's no sound. So you want to share that sound along with the video. And someone asked, how did I put myself into that PowerPoint? Well, instead of sharing PowerPoint slides, there is an advanced tab on top. Hit the advanced tab, and now you can do the beta on PowerPoint. Here's a word of caution. What Zoom is doing is taking your PowerPoint slides, let's say it's a 15 slides file. It's basically creating 15 screens. All right, so you lose the animation. So if some of you like to have the animations like, ooh, fading in, right? And then you have the flashing stars, ding, 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 and even have sounds within your slides, all of those will disappear because they cannot play that in that beta feature. So what they do is quickly, just imagine in layman's term, they take your PowerPoint file, there's 15 slides, they just go boom, 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 convert into 15 images like the virtual background, and they just play it as you go, hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they just play it, and that's why they can put that live feed Roger into that slide, and they basically are changing kind of the virtual background. That's the idea. Of course, I'm not doing exactly how I explain it. That's the kind of layman's version. You do lose all the bells and whistles. But if the bells and whistles are not needed, great, that's the way to go. And it's good if you're doing a tutorial, right? If you are teaching somebody. So let's say if I want to convert this meeting into a tutorial, and I'm doing a slide, I'm doing a demonstration, and I'm inside, that would be perfect. Because I'm also branding, right? I'm branding my tutorial with this face, right? I say, hey, I want the whole world to see this guy, right? So you put in there. The reverse. Some of you might say, you know what? I love to do tutorial and teach people how to do things, but the last thing I want is to have my face in it. Then don't use that feature and use these PowerPoint slide sharing, and you don't see this, and you just keep going with the slide and your voice. Third option, worst case, you don't want people to see your face. You don't even want people to hear your voice. Get somebody to do a voiceover, right? You can still record the video. You can record the video, turn off the sound, get one of your kids who have great voice or whatever, and say, hey, you know what? They can read a script. This is what you do. Boom, 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 boom. And you can also hire people to do that. That's not too expensive to do so. But those are quick things about doing tutorials. Any other questions, Monica?
No, I think you've answered all the questions that have come up so far in the chat box.
All right, so let me do a quick demonstration of those control that somebody mentioned. All right, so I always give this caveat. This is an adult meeting. I have no idea what's on my computer. So if you see anything embarrassing, that's what it is. Roger, don't get embarrassed. So I am going to share my desktop. You are actually going to see actually, I cannot share my desktop because our host has not allowed me to do so. Let's see if Monica can turn that on at all. Let me see if I can. I think it's I do believe it's a function in the background, is there in zoom.us that, let me try it one more time. Correct. So here's something that I forgot to write down also, is that the main account holder, and Monica, don't worry about doing it now because we're in the middle of the meeting. It won't work when you change a feature in the back office and a meeting has already started, chances are that new feature that's been turned on or off will not affect existing meeting because the meeting has already started. But in the back office in zoom.us, you have that choice of whether to allow host, co-host, participant to share their screen, the whole screen. And I believe that's turned off. That's why I don't see that option. But what I can do is to just verbally talk it out very quickly. And I think it was Sarah who asked the question, or maybe not, if I don't remember correctly. When you look on the control bar on the bottom, going from the left, I'm going this way, left to the right, right?
Right, I see that, yes. Left to right.
Hold on a sec, let me see.
But I don't see.
Okay. See,
Roger, see if the picture will work. I did a screen grab.
This is fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Monica is quick, and I was about to do the same thing. She just did a screenshot. So if you go left or right, you start off with the mute and unmute button for the audio. And right next to it, you have a little arrow. That arrow will allow you to choose various things for audio. Same thing goes with stop video and a little arrow. Little trick. Sometimes if you have one camera and you're saying, look, how come it will not show my video? Well, click into that little up arrow, choose something else. Audio, the same thing. It might say, this is audio, radio tag, and this is says system audio, and your audio is not going through. Just go in, choose something else, even though that's not what you're going to use. Come out, go back in, choose the correct one. Most of the time when you toggle and untoggle, it will put you right back to what you want, that choice of camera, the webcam or your audio, and it will work that way. Continuing on, security. When you press on the security button, it does allow a lot of the host and co-host ability, and some of the things that Sarah was mentioned. I can lock the meeting, for example, as a host and co-host. That means once I lock the meeting, nobody can come in. They're not even on a wait list, right? Wait room. Somebody log in. When I log in, it says this meeting has been locked, and they got, they're not even coming in at all. I can lock and unlock. I can enable the wait room. If it's enabled, the attendees come in late, will see a screen, and I can manipulate or adjust what's set in there. So you can go in the back office and say, hey, well, the meeting is in progress. Wait until the main host to let you in. Or you can just say, hey, go away. We don't want you, whatever. Those are the texts that you can put in, and it will pop up when the wait room, and the host and co-host on the participant panel will show up on the top that says ding, 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 ding. You can turn off the audio, but it will give you a little visual that says somebody's waiting. And as that wait list start increasing, like a district meeting, if you're setting up a district meeting, and this list will just get longer and longer and longer. And you can let people in one at a time, or say, I want to wait, put everybody in here. I can allow participants to share their screen, the chat, and so on and so forth. So those are the things that you can change accordingly in that regard.
So I see, may I say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I see your screen here, but there's a lot of things here that are not Zoom related. So really the things that are Zoom related here are the chat that's on the right-hand side of your screen, and then your controls that are in the bar that is directly under your picture.
Yep.
The other things that I see on here are things that are related to Windows.
Yeah.
And Windows programs. Okay, and it's hard for me to see what is on your Zoom screen because it's too small. So I really can't see it that well.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if what you have in your chat room is different from what we see as participants. Because I see
Okay.
like 1, 2, 3, 4.
As I continue to explain this verbally, Monica, here's what you could do. You can click on that image and you can crop that image and make it crop out everything except that control bar. And while she's doing it, and she can expand the size of that control bar. Do the crop function if you can to crop that image. But as she's doing that, let me just tell you very quickly, when you look at your control bar underneath in Zoom, what I have as a host that you don't have includes a button called security, which allows me to allow you, the participant, either more things to do or less things to do. So think of it that way. Just here's a whole list of things that can be done. I have the right to limit it and not allow the participant to use or not use. Next is the participant button. The participant button, it wants to click, which in the image earlier, you see that is on the upper corner on the right-hand side, and it will list out all the participants of who's online, who's doing what, and so on and so forth. Then you have the chat box underneath, and you can resize them and use a chat. Other than that, and then the screen share. Other than that, that's really not a whole lot different than the rest of you. Another thing I do believe has not been turned on in this account is that you have the ability to live stream a meeting into YouTube or Facebook. Therefore, if you have, let's say, a district of, yeah, there it is. Now that you've cropped it, can you expand the size, Monica, and increase the size of this? Then she can see it a little bit better.
Hold on.
If
We
I'll
do
let
have
you
that
do the
turned
thing
on.
behind the scene.
We do have the
I'll let you-
features turned on for the recording, but we haven't been using them.
Yeah, so when she hit on the more button, see, she has more because she is a host. When she click on more, she can live stream this in Facebook. How would you use it? Well, let's say you have a district conference and you're anticipating 200 people and they're not going to vote. It's just an announcement meeting, let's say, sake of argument, or a contest. Well, you don't need 500 people to be in this room to view a contest. So all the people that has to be here, like the timers, the contestants, the judges, they can come into this room. And then for the general audience, what you can do is live stream it to YouTube, live stream it to Facebook. And you tell your district audience, go watch it there. Because the more people you put into a room that they are not necessarily needed to be in that room, you're creating potential problem. Because all they need is to say, hey, wait, Roger, I've got a question. Hey, I got to do this. And what if they accidentally click the wrong button in the middle of the contestant's speech? So what I would do for a district level, now club level is much easier to handle. Area is okay. But once you get into the division and the district level, sometimes it gets complicated. So I would say put the general audience into a live stream situation like Facebook and YouTube. And then everybody who needs to be there, be here in this room. There's a concern. I'm answering a question that is not being asked. So what if I have just the roll holders and the judges in the Zoom room? Then wouldn't that just tell all of the contestants who are the judges? Right? Well, there's a few things you could do. Number one, you can plant 15 more people in here. Just add 15 more people. So you got, let's say, 7 judges, and the roll holder add up to 10. All right, ask 15 other people to join. So you got 30 people. Now you can't guess who's who. That's number one. Number two, before the judges log in, they change their name. Instead of Roger Fung, they'll change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they never turn on the video. And they change their profile to a blank face instead of my own picture, right? So then that way you got anonymous A, anonymous B, anonymous C logging in, and they never turn on the video. And they have to change their profile, make sure that they have the profile picture, because if they still use their own profile picture, you could tell, right? Then that way you have anonymous people. They never speak up. They never show their face. Their profile picture is an anonymous silhouette picture or a picture of, you know, an animal or whatever, right? And then the label, the name is changed. So there's no identifier. So that's another way to do it. So that's up to you guys in terms of your style of how to do that. But along with answering Sarah's question, while you do have additional features for hosts and co-hosts, in that link on the Zoom tutorial that I'm going to pass on in the inside of the PowerPoint, they also have a walkthrough step-by-step of all of the different things that's available on there in Zoom. All right, Sarah, is there any particular specific question that you have about any specific feature?
This is all just new to me, and I just went to the Zoom website and looked up.
And so here's the thing.
Things like, you know, as you were talking about memberships to how to host a meeting or what kind of memberships you have, and there's just a lot of information there. I don't know how to start. You know, I wouldn't, I mean, I know how to start. I could probably go in there and self-teach myself on how to operate Zoom, but some guidance is appreciated. Thank you.
Well, here's the thing, two-part answer. Part number one, a little self-promotion, tipathways.com. There've already been like 20 or 30 different videos. I try to keep my tutorials to one question, one answer. And I label them accordingly. So if there's something that you already know, don't watch that part. Don't watch that video. And so you have to sit in for 2 hours. Each videos are no more than 3 to 5 minutes. So you focus on one issue. Number two, get 2 accounts, right? If you don't have a second email account, just go to Gmail, create a free account with Gmail. Don't use that Gmail for anything but Zoom, so you don't have to worry about somebody sending you a message. Then you can use that second account, the second email account, to start a second free Zoom account in 2 devices. Could be a laptop, desktop, iPad, your phone. Then what happened is you log in one person as the host. The second unit join the meeting to the host. So now you clearly has a host and a participant. And if you put those 2 side by side, you know exactly what you can do on one and not what you cannot do on the other one. You can play around with all of these things. And I would suggest strongly, if you are a webinar presenter or you're giving a speech at a club and you are going to do some slides, or you're even going to have some props, and you say, you know what, I'm going to promote how you should all buy this cell phone, right? And you test it out. Hey, wait a minute. What happened? Oh, it disappeared on me. How come? Well, even if I don't know why it disappeared on me, I know it's disappeared. So I better not do this. I better keep that phone in front of my body, right? So these little things mean practice, practice, practice. And you know, okay, you don't have to know the answer. I just know it disappeared. All right, so I bring it back here. So long way of answering your question is watch TI Pathways. Most likely you'll find a tutorial video. It's already mentioned something. Number 2, get 2 free Zoom account, test it out and play with that. Sarah?
Well, so number 1, if I will go to tipathways.com, is this outside of Toastmasters or is this inside of Toastmasters?
That's outside Toastmasters. This is a separate website. It's my own
separate
website.
And there I will be learning how to what would I be learning when I go there?
TI Pathways is a site, it's my personal site I've set up that has basically everything to do with either Pathway or Zoom or Toastmasters meeting. I don't have any of my business stuff on it. I don't have any funny video on it. No adult content is on it. Okay. It is simply related to how to do Zoom meeting, how to do contests, how to do Toastmasters meeting. So they are listed. If you look at the category, it will be listed accordingly. This group is all about contests. This
right.
group of video is all about meetings.
So I understand that. Now, you also mentioned, and I know Carol has a question too, so I'm trying to be fast about this. You also mentioned free accounts. And I have a Zoom account that's a free account already. So if I want to have a meeting with somebody, I can have a Zoom meeting with somebody. And I don't think I have any concerns about doing that. I think I could probably do that successfully. If anybody ever wants to practice, I'd be happy to be the guinea pig or practice with them. All you have to do is contact me. But I'm saying, but you're saying you need 2 free Zoom accounts. But when I go to zoom.us and I look up hosting meetings, I don't see any free accounts on there at all.
Well, you do exactly what you have done in the past in creating an account. You just start and just log in a new account. You just need you need a separate email address because one email address can only have one account. So my suggestion is not that you have to have 2 accounts. One is good enough. You can host a meeting. My suggestion is when you get 2 Zoom account, then you can test things yourself with 2 units in front of you. You can log in on the laptop and log in to a cell phone, sitting there and doing this by yourself.
So I
If you
could
don't
have
need to
a
do that.
practice. I see what you're saying is to get 2 accounts so that you can have a practice session with yourself, where you're going to be Zooming with your computer and Zooming on your phone at the same time. I get it now. Okay, but there are also limits as to what you can do with a free Zoom account, in that you can only have so much time and you can only have so many people and all of that.
Yeah, number one, if you only have 2 people in a meeting, Zoom does not count that as a group meeting. They say 3 is a group. So if me and you are on a call by ourselves, we can talk for 15 hours and they still won't cut you off.
Okay.
And it's basically unlimited. However, let's say like today's meeting right now, everybody dropped off and the 2 of us is left.
Right.
There's no time limit because this is a pay account. But if this would have been a free account, that time limit has started already because we started off with more than 3 people. So if you and I have a free account, we started meeting, the clock has not started, Carol joins in and she dropped off. That clock starts the moment the 3rd person came into the meeting. Even though they drop off, the clock has started.
Okay, so Carol would be the 3rd person and that would not be a free meeting there. There would be limits there and charges. Is that how that would go?
Here's how it works. When the clock starts,
right,
and once it gets close to the 40-minute mark, I think it's maybe 15 minutes before you hit, you see a little note on the top that says, hey, your meeting is about to end. And like you said, the attraction is, hey, if you don't want this meeting to end, click here and pay, right? They want you to pay, right? But here's the other option. Just run out of time and start a new meeting.
Oh, yes. So
right?
yeah,
You say, hey, Carol, Monica, John,
right,
the meeting's about to end in 3 minutes. So go ahead and drop off and log right back in.
Okay.
Because we'll start a new meeting. And then now the 40 minutes starts from 0 again and go. So Carol, will come right back to you. That's why my suggestion in the past is if your club, and now we're going back to lockdown for a lot of places starting to release, right? Some of the meetings, some of the club will go back to real, regular in-person meeting. Some of the club may say, you know what? We like to have this hybrid meeting. We want to have half the people online, half the people in person. Do we really need a pay account? My suggestion is if you don't know, start with a free account. Start with a free account and play with it, right? Play with it until your club have come to a conclusion. This is great. We want this. Now we want to pay $20 a month. Until then, what do you do with this 40-minute limit? Now, if your meeting is you introduce your role holders and you do your prepare speakers before you go to your table topic, well, after all the prepared speaker, you have not exhausted the 40-minute mark, right? Tell everybody we're going to have a 5-minute break. Drop off, come back in. For those who are online, right? Drop off, come back in. Now your 40-minute will start. Again, 40 minutes will include your table topic, your evaluators, and your various role reports. That's not going to run through 40 minutes. I'm making an assumption that is a 1-hour meeting, right? So if you have a 3-hour meeting, that's a different story. So I would say, introduce your role holders, welcome everybody, prepare a speaker, cut it off. Come back, you got your table topic, your evaluators, your role report. Thank you very much for coming. You just have 2 segments. Neither of the 2 segments will go over 40 minutes. Test it out until your club says, we're comfortable, we love this thing, we're gonna pay 20 bucks. Go. So that's my suggestion. And the limit, another limit is that on free account, you don't get the cloud recording. So recording has to be on your desktop, not on the cloud. And you don't get the the live stream. You cannot live stream it to Facebook. But those are all extra stuff, right? Regular meeting doesn't necessarily need those things. So for those of you who, unless you do this really for a living and you're running this thing constantly, why waste $20 a month, right? I mean, I know it's not a lot of money, but somebody has to pay for it somehow. But on the flip side, if you do use this and it is helping you, why not let them make that 20 bucks? I mean, it's not 20, it's like $16, $17. My wife teaches piano. When the lockdown started, other piano teacher decided not to do a thing. So they have to go on unemployment. My wife paid $20 for Zoom to have her own account. Now I have my own account because I do a lot of business here. She just paid $20 a month. Guess what? She hasn't lost one beat or one dime. She got all of the students online. She's teaching online. And basically, she's probably going to teach online for the rest of 2020 and not have to worry about back and forth people coming in and out of our studio, and let everything settle down. And then she can decide, okay, now that everybody have tested all the different crazy stuff, come January, do I want to do this? And I almost can guarantee that at least 25% of her parents, of the students' parents, would say, we would prefer to stay online because I don't have to drive and continue to take that lesson of half an hour. I don't have to waste 45 minutes to drive to and from your place to go get that 30-minute worth of lessons. Hey, that's their choice if that's what my wife wants to do. But I'm just using that as a real life example of everything we're learning here. It's not just to perfect our Toastmasters experience. It takes us back into the real life.
Oh, yeah.
Takes us back. And I cannot tell you how much money I've saved from my international family just by using Zoom. Anytime I can pop in anywhere, and I've got relatives literally in every continent. So, this is the way to play. All right,
Roger, I
Carol.
just wanted to let you know we're at 3:15.
Yep. And folks, the main slides will be shared with Monica. And so she can forward it to anybody. If you have questions, either raise your hands or type it into the chat box and we'll get to you as quickly as possible. If you need to leave, you can leave. Please, I would not feel disrespected in any way. And I know Carol has been very patient and raising her hand. Carol, all yours.
Okay, an example is I was speaking at my Toastmaster meeting last week, and my apartment rug was drying. So I went to a friend's house with my laptop, and I couldn't get in. So on my cell phone, I text the leaders that I was going to go home, do table topics first, and I'm going to go home and walk on the wet carpet. So that's what I did. The other thing I wanted to try is I have a new rap on YouTube. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to see.
We have another question, Carol, so we can hold
That's
that
fine.
and maybe you can try to do that with your 2 accounts.
Sure.
All right. The other question was, Sarah was asking about, you also don't want to be a freeloader. I think she's talking about the free Zoom accounts, Roger. How do you avoid paying too much or to avoid freeloading?
Purchase, like, whose Zoom account am I using now? Obviously somebody's had to pay for this meeting. And I'm not paying, I have not paid for it. I pay for my Toastmasters membership.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take it, it's like, I don't want to take advantage of a host.
Yeah, and so put it this way, whoever is the host of any kind of meeting, whether they have a free account or pay account, That's their problem. So you don't have to worry about it. When you join a meeting, it is from a participant standpoint, other than some of the features that we mentioned earlier that you can or cannot do, it makes really no difference. From a technology standpoint, the reason why Zoom can allow, don't put any limits really on how many free accounts you can have, is that number one, it does not really tax on their system. Because even if I go out there tomorrow or after this meeting in 45 minutes and register for 100 new free account, I can only be in one place at one time. Even if I'm doing a Zoom meeting, I cannot host 100 meetings. So I'm not really taxing their system. But what's the positive on their end? Well, as I get more familiar with Zoom and getting happy with Zoom, guess what? I have a higher and higher probability of paying Zoom for an account, because now I say, you know what? Showing up black and white is just not enough, right? How many times you walk into Costco and say, I've already have a 40-inch big screen TV. Now 40-inch is not a big screen TV, right? You go in there and you see everybody charting out that 65-inch LCD and you say, ooh, I want one of those. So when we use Zoom and we become more and more familiar, we have that tendency to say, even though this was enough 6 months ago, it's no longer enough. I want these other features. So there's an attraction to say, okay, maybe I'll pay for it. And sometimes if you're paying only $15, the cheapest account's $15, pay tax, it comes out to be 16 something. How many times, and I'm not gonna see hands, please don't raise your hands. I guarantee I can look into your credit card account, look into your checking account of somewhere that you're paying something for $15 or $20 a month that you actually have not used for the last 6 months, and you're still paying for it. That's what the subscription model is all about. Cable, that's what it's all about. Is that whether you watch one show or never watch it, once you get into a habit, they're gonna continue to pull that $15 and $15. So on the one hand, yes, I appreciate what Zoom is doing, and I willingly pay for this account, well, my account, not that one account we are looking at, because I use it for business, I use it actively, and I gladly pay them. And I pay biannually. I don't even wait for 1 month. I just pay them a whole year. Boom, 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 boom. And if I need more participant room, I'll pay them extra for it, willingly to do that. On the other hand, I'm not shedding any tears for them by telling all of you to go get a second free account. I have no qualm in telling you, go test things out and use it until you need it, then you pay for it. So that's a balancing act.
Roger, can I stick it in something here? That I'm the host for our club, and I paid for the Zoom account, and because Toastmasters is my hobby, and $15 a month is not a lot of money for me. I don't even think about it, and anybody that comes to the meeting certainly does not have to feel guilty about not paying for their fair share. That's not an issue for me at all.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from a just reality standpoint, I have clubs that I know that they have a full membership, has the ability. I tell them, go get yourself a pay account, because you know you need this week in and week out. If you don't know about COVID, the lockdown, then pay monthly, right? You're not losing a lot of money. They're saving like 10% or something. And when if September, October, let's say November comes, and they're all going back to real life in-person meeting, okay, then stop paying then. Perfectly fine. I've also have supported clubs that I know they can afford the pay account for whatever reason. Guess what? I gave them my account. I just mark it in my calendar. Every Tuesday from noon to 1, I'm not going to use my account because they have my login. They're going to use this account. I share it with them because I know, but of course, if there's a schedule conflict, right, then I'll use another way to support them one way or the other. And so, yeah, you can play both ends, and I have done that.
So the thought that comes to my mind, if I may say this, is this: I'm wondering if this is going to be breakthrough marketing for Zoom. Breakthrough marketing where it says that a product is offered to you at a lower cost, and so they have the consumer hooked on the product. And then once they have the consumer hooked on the product, they raise the price. I'm wondering if this is going to be some sort of breakthrough.
Number one, and this is more of a philosophical question and an economic free enterprise question, and I'm going and throw it out there and let you hear part of my heart. Number one, it's not going to happen. They're not going to sucker you in and then raise your price. Why? Because even if they get all of us to pay $16 a month, this is not where they're making their money. All right, this is not a money-making thing. Where's the money-making thing? That this is, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Remember way back when we first started using Windows, how many of us play Minesweeper? Right, that little game called Minesweeper on your desktop. Yeah. Why do they put those games? It's to teach you how to use the mouse. They didn't tell you that. These free accounts, we are teaching ourselves how to use Zoom. The real money is when they charge the corporations in creating this Zoom room, which is easily $5,000 to $10,000 a pop, where there are multiple cameras, hi-fi, high fidelity audio, spotlights and different things, so that if the company decides to spend the money, but the employee doesn't know how to use this technology, what use is there? All this free thing that's happening, we're helping Zoom to sell this product to their company, to our company, companies that we work, because people will say, hey, why don't we just Zoom? Okay, we already, this is a new tech, it's like Kleenex, right? It's no longer tissue paper, it's Kleenex, right? We don't search for things, we Google for things, right? How are we gonna meet? We don't meet with Zoom, right? We don't have coffee, we have Starbucks. So Zoom has already became part of our lexicon, right? So with that said, I'm not concerned about any of this. And if there is a concern, guess what? There's Microsoft Meet that's going to try to take business away from them. There's Google, the Google Meet or Google Group or whatever, right? They are going to try to steal that piece of business too. So I'm not concerned whatsoever. With that said, any other question, Monica?
Yeah, the one about maximizing the viewing screen and the share options. I don't know. I think there was some further questions around that.
All and right, then, hold on. Let's see. Go ahead, continue.
There was Sharon is saying that she has she has the paid account, and she wants to know, how do I turn over control of the account for one day for another member to host the account? I would think the host code is all that was needed for that one.
It's the host key. You don't really want to you don't want to really give a password to anybody, all right? In Zoom, there is the idea of the account password. That's really getting into zoom.us, get into the back office. For logging into a meeting, they have chosen to use the terminology of passcode. So they're trying to separate those two things. Password is to get into your own account, to the account in the back office. To get into a meeting, a passcode. The key, the host key, HEY, the host key is the one that if the host is not in the meeting, a different person can claim the host. Once they claim it with that key, which is usually a 6-digit number, then that person becomes the host of that particular meeting. That does not mean that they'll always be the host. At the next meeting, if the profile owner of that account changed the host key, guess what? You cannot become the host again. So you always want to retain that control if your own account or is it a district account or division account. But you can pass out those host key, and then I would suggest that periodically you might want to change the host key just so that that number is not everywhere. That's back to the first question about the full screen. Right now, if you have the chat box on the side, and in this main area where you have either the speaker view or the gallery view, upper left-hand corner, right-hand corner, you should see a button called View. Click on View and you should see a drop-down list of options. Look at the checkbox. The checkbox will show you what you're looking at. When somebody, let's say a host, pin somebody or spotlight somebody, it by default will show the speaker view. And if you don't like that view, click on that button, change it back to gallery. So every time that does it, the speaker will become the biggest spot, but now you have the control to go back to gallery if you choose that. When you do that, it will not impact the rest of us. All right. And earlier I mentioned you can pin multiple speakers, multiple videos. If you're speaking, let's say in a contest, and there are 2 timers, what you do is pin both timers. And once it's pinned, they're on the top row. And you should be able to see at least one or both of them. All right. So that's another way to do so. And as I mentioned, for those of you who came in a little bit later, with the latest update, if your computer can handle it, you can hover with your mouse. It'll turn into a hand on any video, left click, and now you can drag that square and change your Hollywood square, your Brady Bunch square, and bring it to the spot that you want. Hold it for a brief second. You see that what's underneath got pushed to the other way, and let go. And now you will see differently. So, and so in that toggle and that view, you see that full screen or exit full screen. Because sometimes what I like to do is I don't like the full screen because I like to see my chat. But other people says I have a small laptop and I want to see the whole thing. Now, all of the things I've just said is the desktop experience. If you're on a phone or iPad, tablets, it may be different because of the size, shape, and then you might have to swipe left and right or up and down to share different things. All right, next question.
I think Carol is asking how you get a PowerPoint up, and it's a share screen function, but Roger can go through that.
Yeah, what you want to do, there are 2 ways to share PowerPoint slides. Number 1, you open up your slides on your computer. You click the share screen. In the main button, the main screen, the window that pops up, it should start, it says on top, it should say Basic, Advanced, and Files. Normally it's pop into Basic. Then you choose that particular PowerPoint slides that you have created. So that's one way. The second way is to click on the Advanced tab on top, and you'll see a PowerPoint as virtual background beta. When you use that function on the beta, that's the part when I was demonstrating. I'll demonstrate it one more time. And this is that part where I'm doing that beta version, and they're doing a virtual background, and they're putting the person inside the slides, and you can put this, you can put it wherever you want. And then as I advance the slides, notice that earlier when I did the slide, I changed colors and I changed animation and have it comes in one at a time. All those are gone because this is now virtual background. They're treating it as an image. So each slide is an image. That's the thing. So there are 2 ways to do that. There are plus and minus on either way. Practice it, and then you can decide which is best for your particular presentation.
Roger,
Yes.
I went to a YouTube that had a combination of Zoom and YouTube, and it was a specific time. How is that done?
When you look at any posted videos, what we don't know is how much post-production they have put onto that video.
Yeah.
Meaning right now, I see that we have 15 participants. And let's suppose I've recorded this meeting. And I just like to see Roger triple time. So guess what? I just copied this little square. And in my post-production, I just put Roger in this lower corner here and put another Roger over here and put another Roger over here. And then do that video one more time. And now, okay, there are twins, there are triplets of Roger here. But that's all done in post-production. The reason why I bring that up is when you look at YouTube, when you go to Facebook, you look at any video that's being put online, what we don't know is how much post-production they've already done before they put it online to allow us to see it. So therefore, there are things that we normally may not even be able to do natively. However, if you want to see all of that, there are a number of software that you could do so. I use Camtasia. It's a a long time video editing software. Nowadays, there are more and more free free video editors online that you can actually do them all online without paying anything. So I'm going to repeat what I mentioned earlier. Unless you feel you need it, don't waste your money or don't waste your time, because you can always chase after that shiny object syndrome. You say, oh, that looks good. Let me go try that. And you spend 5 hours only to squeeze 1 second out of that function. And say, okay, well, I tested it. I tried it. I don't need it. Great. Then move on.
You're at 3:30, Roger.
All right, Monica, any other questions before we start to wrap up?
No, there are no additional questions in the chat box unless someone has one.
All right, so let's
I
go ahead and
do.
do this. Let's add
I wanted
I
to
have a question.
Sharon.
I wanted to show a little bit of
And
my newest YouTube.
We are
Okay,
still
Carol,
going through
Carol, hold
questions.
on. Carol, hold on. Sharon has a question. Let's go with her question first. Sharon?
And I hate to keep pushing this point, but it's just my own not understanding. I cannot be at my Toastmaster meeting on Thursday. I own the account. I start the account. I'm not going to be near a computer. And you said to pass the control on to someone else, giving them the host key, which I cannot find. I've looked in the profile, but they can actually start my Toastmaster or my Zoom account during
Yes.
the.
Yes.
And how would they do that?
Okay, here's the thing. I'm going, because I cannot demonstrate it at this moment, but I'll verbally walk you through. And I will double check after the meeting. I'll double check after the meeting. If it's not there, if Zoom have moved anything away, I will shoot a new video. I'll send it to Monica so all of you will know. But let me walk through the step very quickly. Number one, you need to have the host key of your account. You need that somewhere. So you drop that down. Once you share it, let's say you share it with me, all right? You share it with me, and I have the meeting ID of your account and the passcode to get into your meeting, not the account, a meeting. So like today, Monica, in this meeting, I believe was shared that this meeting ID is 869-549-88-4045. That's the meeting ID. I need that. I need the passcode, which is 973559. So once I have that and the host key, so I need 3 numbers. I have those 3 numbers. Sharon is going to go on a vacation around the world in 80 days. Cannot be contacted by anybody. All right, so that's it. With those 3 numbers, 3 sets of numbers, I can use your account and have a meeting anytime, any place, any hour.
Okay, so I just need to find my pass key somewhere. I know you said that, it just was not making sense.
No problem, I understand.
Do it, but I got it now. So I'll just keep looking for my pass key. If I can't find it, I will contact you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your persistence.
No problem. Hey, Sharon, these things are not, there's no need to apologize. We're all learning this new thing. And the thing is, because Zoom is becoming more and more popular and people are requesting, can we do X? Can we do Y? Guess what? When I say, hey, go look in the left, next week it's not on the left, it's on the right. Next week they change it again. So we're chasing after this ever evolving thing. But the good news is we have these functions. It's called the host key. You have a meeting ID, which tells the computer, join this meeting. The password allows you to actually enter into the meeting and not stuck outside the room. Once it's in there, not everybody needs the host key. You just need to pass the host key to the 2 or 3 people that you want the control. They click on the participant button. You should all see a participant button underneath. Once you hit it, now you don't see it today because we already have a host. But when you hit the participant button, on that left-hand side, you should see a 3 dot. You click on 3 dot and one function will say claim host. When you hit claim host, that's when you enter the host key and you claim the host. Once it's claimed, there's only 1 host. There'll always only be 1 host. You can have 0 hosts, but you can only have 1 host. Once a host has claimed that meeting, the host can now make other people co-hosts by left clicking their name, the video square, and say, make them a host, make them a co-host, make this person a co-host. You have that. The only way you can give that right away is if there is that one host. Because we can log into this meeting with no host. We just cannot control anything. We just keep talking. And at 40 minutes, we'll drop out if it's free account. If it's a pay account, we just keep going. But we cannot vote. We cannot do the poll. We cannot do a lot of screen share because nobody's controlling things. So you need that one host. So if you run into any trouble, Sharon, and for everybody, my email address is dtmrogerfung@gmail.com. You are welcome to send me an email. And if I don't already have a video, and if it's something that really needs a hands-on, we can schedule a time for 10, 15 minutes. We just come on and we can do a hands-on and we can show you some stuff. All right? Anything else? Any other questions? Let's go through the list.
Roger,
I have
a question.
John.
If we use the host key and those other two things, the passcode and the meeting ID, can someone other than the usual host start a meeting if you've got the waiting room feature enabled?
Yes, if the waiting room feature is enabled, and as I showed earlier, that's where that single point of error. Because the waiting room is on. Here's a scenario. We're using John's account. John is gonna go on vacation. John just gave me all of those numbers I mentioned earlier. But the waiting room is enabled. I log in. Where am I gonna be? I'm stuck in the waiting room. Nobody can allow me in because there's no host. So that's part of the reason why I strongly suggest that you don't turn on the waiting room, because nobody can get in unless he actually give me the password of his account. Now I log into his account, not as Roger now. I'm logging in as John William. That would be a different story. But if he does not want to give me the password of his actual account, not just the meeting ID, then I suggest two things. Number one, turn off the waiting room feature. Number two, turn on the allow others to join the meeting before the host. When you have those two things done, same scenario. John is nowhere to be found, but I have the host key. I log in because it allows me to join the meeting before the host. I'm going in as a non-host. As soon as I get into the meeting, now I can click and claim the host. Now I become the host, but I have to get into the meeting first. Is that clear? Good. John says it's clear. Excellent. Carol got it. All right. Anything else? We're hitting that 3:40 mark. We don't necessarily have to go all the way to 4 o'clock, but anyone else?
I have something real quick.
Yes.
You said that we should enable the join before host, but sometimes I notice people an email reminder, they'll click on the link like a week before the meeting is supposed to even start. So if I have join before host and they click on that link a week early, what does my meeting start and keep running, and how does that affect my internet service? I'm actually hosting it. How does that work?
Okay, great. Okay, I'm trying to hit all of them at once. Number one, it will not impact your internet service, no matter how much earlier that I click. So all 15, 16 of us all click into your link at the wrong time. It does not impact your internet. Your internet provider will not charge you extra because it has not touched you, your specific internet service at all. Number two, the meeting is supposed to be next Tuesday. I click on your link today. I pop in there. I will be the only one sitting there. All right. So sooner or later, I got to figure out, I'm not supposed to be here. All right. So I get out. Number one, Zoom is not going to charge you extra just because someone's sitting there. So where I have a pay account, it's the same thing with free account. Whether I log in every single day or I go in only once a month, they charge me the same price. There's no change. So I can, because I have a pay account, I can literally leave my Zoom on permanently, 24/7 for 30 days. It is still $15 plus tax. All right, so that's the usage side of things. Does that change anything else in terms of your link to go into an account, to a meeting? No. However, suppose, using myself as an example, because I use my account for my own business, I probably don't want a Toastmaster to click into a client meeting when I am in that meeting, right? So what should I do? There are two things I could do. Number one, I can turn, by default, I can turn off the join before the host feature by default. And then let's say the meeting is Tuesday at noon. Tuesday at 11 o'clock, I go into zoom.us and switch and turn on join before, allowing to join before the host. I could do that. So I'm changing the feature the day of, an hour before the meeting or 2 hours, whatever. That is one option. Second option, I leave the join before the host on. So it's constantly on. Anybody can join with if they have the right link. But when I'm in a private meeting, I'm in a, let's say planning meetings. Let's say Monica and I are planning for a district-wide contest. It's just me and her. We start the meeting. Guess what? I lock the meeting. Right? As soon as I lock the meeting, I don't care if a million people have my link. They can't get in. They get to the point where, oh, sorry, the meeting's been locked. And I wouldn't know. There's no ding on my desktop that says, hey, there's 15 million people waiting outside. No, it just, the meeting's locked. And I never find out who's been clicking it, if it's a scammer, a spammer, or just an accidental click by a Toastmaster. So there are two ways to solve that issue. Anything else, Peggy? Does that answer your questions?
Yes, that does. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else before we close it up?
I know Peggy is sharing with us Thursday night at 7 o'clock how to be a storyteller. So we have the link out there on the district website, and you should have all received an email. So be sure to tune in for that, and you can learn how to become a great storyteller. Roger, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your information with us. We appreciate that. As we transition into potential hybrid clubs, do you have things on your website to also address that as far as the logistics of it? Because that's going to be some questions that are going to start coming up relatively soon.
I do have some. I have to double check how much I put onto my website, but you're welcome to click on it and make sure you look at the left side column and click on the different thing. Okay. With hybrid meetings, a few quick points. Number one, location. If you are in a corporate setting and the room's already set up, great, right? And some of you may be in a club that are in a kind of a community meeting room where people can join, not necessarily inside the corporations, but the building allows multiple groups to come in and the room is already set up. That's perfect. I am in a club that we used a room in a conference room in a hospital. The hospital was just freely sharing these conference room that we didn't have to pay for. Guess what? Not only are there big screen TV, Wi-Fi connections, they even have a conference phone line, analog line that we could use in that. And we walk in and out. There's no need for us to sign in and out. There's no extra security that takes me 3 hours to get into that building. Guess what? That's a perfect scenario. However, let's say your club meets at the local IHOP. Is hybrid going to be conducive? Probably not, because most IHOP rooms don't have a big screen TV. So somebody has to bring in a big monitor or multiple laptops. Number two, the audio is going to be horrible because you might have echo because those rooms may not be. Number three, I have a club that have been meeting in an IHOP, and this is even beyond, besides hybrid, that the main IHOP room has literally 3 tables of customers. But there is that one customer that wants to sit in that meeting room 3 minutes before our meeting starts. Are we really going to kick that person out? right? So okay, now okay, am I going to continue to have that meeting, right? So those are, I'm not trashing IHOP, just using that as an example, is that you have to think about location. Is it going to be conducive? If it is, great, try it. Try it, test it out. If not, here's an option. The option is you can have a hybrid club without hybrid meeting. Let's say you have a weekly club. Week number 1, in person only. Week number 2, online only. Week number 3, in person only. Week number 4, online only. Well, you just had a hybrid experience without a hybrid meeting, because you're actually 100% either or, right? So you can do something like that. Now, I use every other week. You can always change things, right? So if you have really one person that's really dialing in from somewhere else, and they can only join you once a month, okay, you got 3 weeks of in-person and 1 week of online. Or calling special meetings, right? You know, let's say you have online, in-person every week, but we like to have this online celebration for birthday. Every month we're going to celebrate birthday with a special meeting at a different place, different time, or extended time. And we do it online, because then that way we can pull in ex-members, former members, members who have moved out of the country. You could do that. So you can be creative in that regard. It's not perfect, but even if you do a hybrid meeting every week, guess what? Your members are not joining every single week, right? I mean, I can even say that I join my meeting every single week, because schedule, things, life happens. Life happens. Sometimes I'm going to miss a meeting. So the last comment about hybrid, test things out before you make a long-term decision, because what if you decide so gung-ho, you're going to have a hybrid meeting, you figure out all of the difficulties and how you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And let's just use this room right now. There's 14 of us is our club. And John Williams says he's the only one, online is the only way he can join our meeting. He's out of the country. And so we do all of this work. Week 1, John doesn't show up. Something happened. Week 2, John doesn't show up. Something happened. Week 3, John doesn't show up. Something happened. What's going to go through with some of the people's mindset, right? We've done all of these things. We bought a new laptop for our club and we put it into this room, and we're really only doing it for John because he's the only one who needs it right now. Yeah, I know there's other people who may come in later on. Now, those are very normal scenario. Now, am I saying that John has to commit to be there every week? No, we cannot place that kind of limitation on any members. But think through those things so that you're not creating a potential a ticking time bomb. So try it for a few weeks. If you don't like it, then make other changes, and so on and so forth. One thing I just recall that Monica mentioned, that maybe I can mention a thing or two about recruiting tips now that we are online. What would be some of the recruiting tip? Number 1, no matter what time zone you're in, if you're talking North and South America, you're basically within those 3 or 4 hour time frame. That means you can reach out to people in Ontario. You can reach out to people who are living in Mexico City, because they're basically in this very similar time zone. Now, if you're meeting as a lunchtime club at noon on Wednesday, all right, it's possible that those other friends that have moved to Mexico City may be working and may not be the exact time zone. All right, you have to think through those things, but that means that there might be people who can still fit into that time zone, even though it's 1 or 2 hours off, and they might want to join you. And then some people say, well, what if they join us and then later on we all go back to in-person, never have online? Isn't that kind of bait and switch? Well, the question, the way I would handle it is this. Number 1, let them know that that is a possibility. Number 2, none of us know when we can go back to normal. Is it a 6-month thing? If it's 6 months, that's 1 renewal, right? You already passed 1 renewal. So that means that 6 months, they can be very concentrated. I'll give you one literal example. I have a member that we joined in our local Dallas club who lives in the Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight is that island underneath Great Britain. It's part of Great Britain. They don't have a Toastmasters club in the whole island. All right, they can join a London club, no problem. But somehow we got connected with me, and this person is joining our club here in Dallas. And the goal is to get, and she's a brand new Toastmaster, never been a Toastmaster before. Her goal is not only to improve her own public speaking skill, she wants to bring brick and mortar clubs into her location at the Isle of Wight. So we're going to be adopting her. So the idea is, as she share her experience in Toastmasters with her friends and colleagues and coworkers in the Isle of Wight or around the area, they're going to be joining and getting a taste test in my local club. If it's good enough, they might even join our club with the idea, when that core group grows big enough, we are going to launch a daughter club in Great Britain from Dallas. You know, those are the different things, and they can be a brick and mortar club. Now down the road, they may not be under our district, but those are details. So that's one thing about recruiting. Number two, I'm pretty sure that most of you in your club already have a document of all the new stuff that you're going to give to a brand new Toastmaster, explaining how to do an R counting, explaining the evaluation, explaining the meetings and things like that. Ask yourself, when's the last time you actually read all of that in one setting? Chances are 0, right? So what do? Well, you can break them apart. You can break them apart and turn them into email messages, even to prospective visitors, right? Someone visited a club. Well, you say, hey, how'd you like the club member? And each week you just drop a little link to the email that says, hey, in our meeting, we always have 3 parts. We have the prepared speaking, we got the impromptu speaking, and we got evaluation. We'd love to have you. Short and simple. Next email, it could be 2-3 days later on, another email. Hey, one of the things that we look at is to get rid of the ahs and that get rid of these things that get in our way. So we have this little thing called R counter. So you're already explaining part of the meeting, but it's not a 15-page long dissertation, but it's just one question, one answer, and you're sowing the seeds. You might have heard that in advertising, you have to see the advertisement of that commercial at least 7 times for people to log in there. Now you just drop email, or text or WhatsApp message. Each time, not a long thing, but a little additional. Oh, that's what they do thing. Oh, that's why that little ding. Oh, and as they get familiar, just like what we said earlier, when people are familiar with Zoom and having meeting, guess what? We have a higher chances of paying Zoom for a professional account now. So you are enticing them. You're giving them that taste. It is that Costco taste trial tables, right? You get little bite. And guess what? You just spend another $99 on that thing, whatever that thing is. And you put it at home, and you might not ever use it, but you'll never buy that unless somebody gave you that taste, right? So in recruiting, don't tell them everything about Toastmasters. Don't tell them about the history, how we've done all this. Those are the things are not relevant until they come inside. Just say, hey, what are you doing on a Sunday afternoon? Got nothing better to do? Come and join me. Here's the link. Have some fun for an hour, right? Hey, John, you've been working on that book. What if you get a chance to promote your book? What does that mean? Hey, come and talk to our friends here Sunday afternoon, Get them, once they're in, get their email address, you hit drop, a seed. Here's a little seed, here's a little seed. Until they tell me, don't talk to me anymore, I'm gonna keep dropping and dropping and dropping. And if they say, hey, take me off your list, I always say, okay, that's it. I take them off the list. Until then, every week, it'll drop, a little drop, a little drop. Because what you don't know is, they may want to join your club, but the timing is not right. And if you don't keep dropping those things, when the timing becomes right, they may not remember who you are. So you keep dropping when the timing is right. And how many people are getting new jobs today? Not because they want to, right? Some companies just say, you know what? We couldn't afford to keep going and keep waiting. We have to close up shop. You have to go look for something else. This is the time to, oh, I'm a trainer. Guess what? I better hone up on my public speaking skills. So all that to say, we can, with what we're doing in Toastmaster and how quickly many of us decided, let's not sit around and wait and jump in. Yes, it's messy. We're all learning this thing and it's not perfect. And I can't tell you how many times in the middle of a contest, somebody did something, said something, mocked something that's not supposed to happen. Guess what? It's not the end of the world. We learn from it. Okay, we're not going to do that tomorrow at the next, tomorrow's contest. You learn, you grow. And I'll end with this. The number one skill that you pick up from Toastmaster is not being advertised. It's never going to be advertised because it's not sexy, but it's the most valuable skill, is to be able to run an effective meeting. Think back to your work situation and how many times you've been in a work meeting, at a church board meeting, at a meeting of more than 3 people, and 3 hours later you come out, you have no idea what happened. What did we decide? What did we talk about? But think about the training we have. Every single week that you go into a meeting, there's an agenda. May not be perfect, but there's an agenda. You go through the agenda, boom, 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 boom. You accomplish something. Next week you come in, boom, 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 boom. This may be a bragging statement, and you can decide for yourself. I can walk into a Fortune 500, any one of the Fortune 500, give me 5 minutes, I'll run a more effective board meeting with any one of them, any place, anytime, and I don't even need to know what industry they're in. And I can do that simply because I've been doing this for a few years. Now, we cannot advertise this, right? I mean, hey, come join Toastmaster meeting so you know how to run meetings. It's not sexy. Public speaking is the sexy part, right? Oh, I want to be the world champion of public speaker. I'm not knocking that. That's wonderful. But not all of us is going to be like that, right? But all of us can learn how to run an effective meeting, putting things in order. How do you navigate between the chat box, questions, having an assistant throwing questions back and forth? And we can do things the exact time, starting on time, ending on time, getting those key 3 or 4 things that we don't want to get done. That's the secret sauce. That is going to take you to whatever level that you are at your workplace, at your church, at your nonprofit. And we can potentially make life a lot more effective when we can corral our ideas and actually accomplish something instead of just talking about it. So with that said, Monica, thank you very much for having me, and that I will let you just go ahead and close it all up.
Thank you so much, Roger. I want to thank everyone for being in attendance, and a special thank you to Roger for sharing his knowledge, his time, and I really appreciate that. And just look on our district website for any additional information, and we will continue to offer training through the rest of the year. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend.